welcome to this last final session of the 19th TICCIH World Congress in Kiruna. I hope you slept well and have recovered from these intense days of the Congress. 5 days we have been discussing. The idea of this final session, summary session, is to round up a little bit everything that has been discussed during the Congress. We had this idea early on with Miles and also Roine's team to have one session to bring together the different ideas that have been discussed in the sessions, knowing that there have been ongoing a lot of parallel sessions. So it's impossible for everyone to be in every session. And still, we would like to, we are curious to know what is happening, what has been discussed in the different sessions, because we need that as an inspiration for the programmatic work of TICCIH in the future. So what we'd like to do in this final session is bringing together the key ideas and recommendations for TICCIH to work on in the future that have been discussed in the sessions or outside the sessions. That is also very important. Late night talks and discussions about what we absolutely need to put on our work table in the next years. We, of course, as the new TICCIH board, we have a lot of programmatic ideas already, but we have been very busy over the week behind the scenes and on the stages to manage the process. You've seen that yesterday, the process of change. And me, myself, I have not had the opportunity to go to any other thematic session, apart from the one where I was presenting a paper too. So I'm really curious to know from your side what has been discussed, what were the major issues, and what I need to write on that piece of paper to be discussed further with my vice presidents who are on the way to come here. They're a little late. One because of children that need breakfast and see her mother for a while, and the other one because she is packing her stuff up. Moultrie, she will take the night train this night to Stockholm. So they will be here with us in a minute, and we are chairing this session together with Miles. And that's the idea of the session, and I may hand over the microphone to you, Miles, to see what you could probably say.
Thank you, Marion. Yes, so Marion said pretty much what I was going to say, but I'll add a little bit. In my opinion, one of the biggest disadvantages of conferences that have parallel sessions is that you end up having to speak or chair a session at precisely the same time as the papers that you really want to hear. It's a source of deep frustration. So the idea was to have a plenary session where we hear about what happened in the other sessions that we would have liked to have attended. So what happened in this instance was that people were invited to become, and this is not the word I chose, but I think it's a wonderful word, escritoire. Florence, is escritoire, c'est français? Oui. Okay, and it certainly has an exotic sound to it, to me anyway. And anyway, so the conference organizers allocated the task to various people, and some people were so busy with so many sessions that they weren't able to do it. So we know that we haven't had a full response. Well, if we had, then we would be here all day because there were so many sessions and so many papers. So I've had sent to me by 3 people who are not here, I've had some comments and some observations about their sessions. But we thought, and I will share those with you at a suitable moment later on, but I thought we would start by inviting you to tell us about anything that happened in any of the sessions you attended, which you think are noteworthy, that worth sharing with the rest of us. And the reward for offering to do this is that you get invited to sit in one of these super comfortable orange seats in the front with a microphone and just to talk freely about what you think. And equally, I think we'd like to invite you to say things about the conference as a whole, because one thing we want to do is to learn from this conference and replicate all the good things in future conferences. So we'd like to hear that too. So those of you who've just arrived, we just need to say that the back of the bus is banned, and we need you to come forward in the room, if you can, into the bright lights so there is no escape. So if you wouldn't mind coming down a bit further so we are closer and more intimate and feel more able to share our ideas. So please come forward to the more expensive seats.
So perhaps with that, Miles, we could hop over to a little bit content discussions. I think what made it so interesting and important to have our 19th Congress here in Kiruna is precisely the situation where we are in Kiruna, with conflicting views on how lands should be used, with problems that are upcoming in growing extractive industries in this region that are consuming lands and nature and people also, with ways of operating that are changing. Lucy said that in her keynote, to fly in and out people changes completely the sense of place and the way people live together. And I had also some reflections with my Latin American colleagues. Some of them are here and could probably comment something on their conclusions or preliminary conclusions. But I always have a feeling that in Europe, in those times we are in now, and things start to get ever more complicated, and mining is important to have more energy independence from other parts of the world you do not wish to depend on. But that, of course, causes a situation where you have to do mining and where people are not happy with it because it is a conflict of land use. And knowing that, I think when we look at global history a little bit, then we come to state that previously Europe was in a very luxurious position to have mining done in other parts of the world, and also highly polluting production processes having been done in other parts of the world. Now, for autonomous reasons, it's coming back, for other reasons too, that are interesting to discuss. And perhaps it is a good thing for Europe to look elsewhere in the world where these processes have been happening a long time, or perhaps ever since, where people are more, how do you say that, confronted with these problems that are coming up, and where perhaps there could be some kind of experience Europe could learn from. So how to deal with this extractivist industries in a social political context that is getting ever more neoliberal or capitalist, and what is the role of the social movements in that role, or of NGOs suggesting other ways of how to handle that. And perhaps that's an initiating statement to go into contents. Feel free to wave if somebody wants to make a comment.
I'll take the mic, but I will not sit. Thank you, Marion. What I have noticed, actually, and of course, I'm speaking here from my chapel. Do we say that in in English, yeah, is that some people, me, but other people, have been talking a lot about, about living environments and learning to discuss living environments, and not necessarily environments impacted, for example, by extractive activities or moved, demolished and moved by extractive activities, but for example, company towns, workers' village, workers' environment, and the living memories of the workers in their environment. I think a lot of people have been talking about that, and discussing about some kind of new developing new frameworks. Now, I don't know if we're talking here about the future of TICCIH or about the future of the proceedings of this conference. So I'm just sort of hesitating between the two. But anyway, so I think that the idea to reflect on new frameworks within the realm of industrial heritage, and I'll come back on this after, within the realm of industrial heritage, to be able to assess environments as well as we do punctual things like machines, plants, mines, railway. I think that it would be an interesting thing that could bring some people and some new approaches to industrial heritage. In coming back to industrial heritage, I want to play in French we say jouer la belle-mère, play the stepmother. Do we say that? Is that an expression? Anyway. And I would like to just say here, as past president of the ACHS, Association of Critical Heritage Studies, of which I'm not anymore president, but anyway, I know what they do because I'm still involved in there. I would tend to ask TICCIH to please not step too much into the realm of the critical heritage studies. That is the virtue of heritage, the critical thing, the people for peace, people for the environment. I don't know if you see what I'm saying, because we actually have in TICCIH a real specificity of what we are. That's what I was saying yesterday in a disorganized manner, which is still my manner this morning. We really have an expertise on industry, the history of industry. Now, we need probably to expand it into the 20th century and further into the 20th century, which involves living environment and problems of memories, and industrial heritage as an experience, as a lived experience, that for sure. But I think that we do need to pay attention to stick to what is our resource here, which is industrial heritage, be it tangible or intangible, be it the thing or the relation to the thing, or the consequences of the relation to the thing. But the first thing that we address, I think, needs to be the industrial heritage, and not some context, some abstract, sorry, I'm speaking French this morning, some abstract, yes, some abstract theoretical point of view, because then we will be in the realm of other associations which thrive on these topics. And I'm not saying that we're not strong enough to compete, but I don't think that we would gain in losing our resources, our spirit, and our soul through an expansion that we would not master.
Thank you, Lucy. May I comment on that? Just use that as a way of segueing into some feedback about some of the sessions I attended. I think the first thing I would say is that there were some outstanding truly industrial sessions in the Congress, and that reflects the complexity of what industrial heritage is, because there's so many industries that manifests itself in so many ways and at so many scales as well. So I think we did do that, and some sessions did it incredibly well. There was one featuring featuring Zollverein and the challenges of Zollverein, for example, and the potential adaptive reuse of an enormous brown coal power station. The ambition that showed, and all the challenges that go with trying to do that, and all the compromises that have to be made on terms of authenticity and commercial viability and so on. So that was kind of a macro scale industrial thing, and the impact on the communities and on the environment and everything else. So I think there's plenty of fuel within TICCIH to continue doing that. And there were some tremendous ones across the world, railway systems in Indonesia, and so on. So I think this conference has attracted some truly great contributions and a huge variety. So anyway, that's my positive answer. And thank you, Lucy. That was, I really agree with you.
Thank you. May I?
Yes, of course. Esperanza, come here. You also wanted to say something. I would just make a seat available for you.
Je peux?
Yes.
Okay. So I will say the same as Lucy. I think it's very important to know where we come from to decide where we want to go. And I think that the 50th anniversary of TICCIH is a good moment to try to reflect on this question. The title of my session was "How did industry become heritage?" And it was a multi-scale approach to analyze the industrial heritage process. I think it was very interesting to listen to Yinping Nong from China, who did a comparison between two different UNESCO sites, and she analyzed the process of nomination. And particularly UNESCO list is a good point of view to understand how industrial heritage evolved since the beginning of this list. Why? Because we cross what is industrial heritage, which kind, which categories, but we also cross the diplomacy of industrial heritage, which is so important and which TICCIH have to deal with every day. And I think that the question of peace is interesting, is important, and that is one of the aspects. So I think we need more works on this question to understand what does this list mean for industrial heritage. I personally also suggest to have an overview of the evolution of the scientific context all over the world. For example, how many PhD have been defended in each country since the beginning of industrial heritage, in which category or in which disciplinary? Why? Because it's very interesting to see that some historians, the historian of technology, are particularly important, but we also have very interesting PhD in sociology, in architecture, in anthropology, and some of them we didn't know them. And so, second point, I think also it's interesting to ask us what now are the career of the doctor since they have defended their PhD. And it's interesting because of many of us have a career in the university, but some of them are in the museum or in political system. And I think that is also important to know where we go when we have a PhD in industrial archaeology and which kind of PhD. In the same way, I think also we need to have an overview of the master degree for professional in industrial heritage all over the world. I remember that Mariniser organized many years ago a meeting about the question, and I think it's very, very important. We have to share our methodology all over the world to be, not to be sure, but to connect and to improve all of the formation for the next professional. And I really insist on the global approach of this project. You know, one of my PhD students, Senabou, work on the industrial heritage in Senegal. I was very amazing to see that Senegal was interested by its own industrial heritage since the 1980s. So not in the 21st century, but in the 20th century. And so it's something important to know what is the reality of industrial heritage in each country, in all of the continents. And so I think we have to help also some professionals who do not have the capacity to join TICCIH, to join the conference, to show that industrial heritage exists in their country. And I also have a PhD student in Chad, and it was just impossible for him to come in the TICCIH Congress for political reasons. And I think also we have to think about this situation. Last but not least, there was a lot of PhD students, more than I ever seen in the TICCIH Congress. And it was really fabulous to listen to them, to know how enthusiastic they were. But I also was very interesting, or maybe a little bit worried about the fact that a lot of paper only took into account one aspect of the industrial heritage and neglected all of the other. For example, we have beautiful speech of papers about the reuse of industrial heritage, but the memories of the workers, the participation of the inhabitants was just absent of this kind of paper. And I don't know what does it mean. I think also that it could be interesting to connect all of the supervisors to understand how they manage the PhD and why they did this kind of choice. But I think something happened, and we have to be careful, or to be aware on this point of view. So, and that's all.
Merci. That was wonderful. Just on that last point, if I may make the observation I often make, which is I don't think any branch of heritage has such a strong relationship between the tangible and the intangible. And clearly they were missing the intangible in that instance, but you need both in most circumstances. Otherwise, industrial heritage is weaker than it should be.
Yeah, but the fact is that when the paper talk about the intangible, they always have some point to say there is an intangible industrial heritage, but look at the traces, the building, and what is a tangible. And sometimes there is just some few artifact, but it is the beginning of a big intangible heritage. The contrary is not true. It's not true. N'est pas vrai. It's not true. That is to say, we have a beautiful tangible heritage, but nothing about the intangible one. Je suis fatiguée. I'm tired too. That's all.
Hello? Yeah, I'm also tired, so I will try. Yeah, I'm totally agree what we have been discussing here. I really feel that the industrial heritage, it is very flexible and complex. So, of course, we need all the technical knowledge to preserve, to renew, to get the sense of the past or maybe to the future. But if we want to expand our knowledge of it, it is because we want to be global. And all the contexts are so important to understand the mean and the meanings, not just the buildings. It's super important to realize that industrialization make the change. In our countries in Latin America, the urban plannings becomes from the company towns, the most of them, in the rural areas, to say natural areas. So the complexity of being global, it's also something that we need to deal as TICCIH, where the theoretical stuff help us to communicate this to others expert, we don't neither knows the different context, because we need to explore in the territory what is the really meaning of the industrial heritage or situation, to say. Because here we are in Kiruna, where it's Kiruna, sorry. In Kiruna, I really feel weird, but not because the people, or maybe yes, because in our countries, I mean, the protest, the human being, it's in the hand of the people, because no one's going to care that. And that's why the social organization, it's so strong, because we don't have, well, we have, but not as we want, human rights at the end. So it's super complex to make in a conference or in 20 minutes the sense of this diversity. So that's why it's so important to keep going and to keep doing this conference in each country, just to have the sense of the territories and of the people. In Chile, in the north, we have ghosting cities as Kiruna, but no one cares what happened with the ruins. So you drive through the desert and you will find this ghosted place. Did you feel that when you...
A lot of them.
Oh, yeah, a lot. Not so huge, but there. And you also will find a very sophisticated minds, copper mines, of course, and a very sophisticated cities. But yesterday, we have a beer with a quite nice worker. It was young, and he was talking about his experience of living here in Kiruna and of living this movement of the city. And basically, my conclusion of his narrative was, he is here, he is happy because he have money. And he can go to Ibiza to spend all the money in one weekend. Same in Chile. The workers now are young. They have to move from their places, as a lot of us have been doing also. So the workers as a culture, it's quite different now. And that's why we need to open and expand our knowledge, just to realize that we cannot stuck in the past, of course, but we need the past to understand. And when we are global, we need the context, of course, and we need theoretical tools also to explain to others. And this is not about the competition, it's about collaboration to understand and to really make the transformation. If one mind can transform a city, or this industrial era could transform the society, of course we have the chance to transform it. But we need to keep together and understanding each other, just to make something different in terms of include all the people. we also have movement in Chile, houses movement. And it's a tradition in Chiloé, and we call Minga. And it's such a beautiful party, because when one family decide to move to the other island, even because it's when the continents start to, how do you say this, dissolute in the ocean by different island, to say. A lot of people need to move because, I don't know, the school closed in this island, so they want to move to the other, or whatever situation they had. And they make it by the hand, and of course with cows, and it's a party of, it's a traditional party. But the means of this transportation of the house, to say, I don't know how to say it, sorry, I'm tired. But to move the house, it's a party, and it's the symbolic thing. It's all the community help you to move that. So now I see this beautiful church, huge one, and all these machines around, and no, I mean, you cannot access. So the people are still far away of it, of this process. And having the experience of being in a minga where they, at the end, they just spray food for everyone, you know, and drink some wines and dance and whatever under the rain, under the snow also, you know, it's southern, it's the same, but in the opposite side, to say. So it is something very different, and it feels very different. So that's why I'm also talking in the meanings and the symbolic process, we are such important to understand. The same thing, different places. So yeah, so my reflect in this conference particularly, I'm quite happy because we had a lot of this understanding and this social knowledge engaged and involved in industrial side. We also still have a lot of technicals who, and an architect and engineers who teach us the human side, of humanity side of this, teach us how you can really make the restorations, the conservation, and it's such important be also interdisciplines, because the boundaries of disciplines sometimes are not important if we really need to have this transformation of the sense of understanding. So, of course, I miss a lot of other stuff, but I feel this is the deeply reflection. So I'm very happy to be here with Mario and with Mai, with all of you, sharing not just the conference, the lunch. So thank you for all the organization. Of course, we always can be better, but just the moment of trying to do something so huge, it is beautiful. So thank you very much to all of you.
Thank you, Esperanza.
Hi. If we still have enough time for this, okay. So I just want to thank everyone. It was the most relaxed congress I've ever visited for me. Because
for us too. Yeah.
Most of the time I was just the guest and I was not doing anything. So I was really feeling very, very, very well and relaxed. And of course, I've learned a lot of things. And now I want just to give a small report of the session I was joining with a small presentation. It was the session with Chris Whitman from the Cardiff University and the Welsh School of Architecture. And the title was something like, I guess I forgot the title, but it was about industrial heritage and shaping sustainable future. And of course, it was fitting really good into the title of the Congress. And we discussed 3 things because there have been 3 speakers. And the first thing was from Chris Whitman. And he was telling us stories about his teaching program, his study programs at the Cardiff University. He's doing as an architect with his students. telling them this is industrial heritage site or this is an old industrial site, which maybe is still no listed heritage site. And you should think about how to develop these sites. What could we do with this site? And he was showing us pictures from the project the students were doing. And they had brilliant ideas to put these sites in context to our worldwide problems. And this was really a great thing to see and to hear. It was a report from the university education program. Perfect. So the second one was Audhild Kennedy from Norway. And she was giving us some report from the museum perspective and how they deal with shaping the minds of children in the museum. This was really nice because she had both. She had a report about theoretical things, so she was giving us hints for very good literature for educating children and younger students and so on in museums and in heritage site, the theoretical thing. And the second one was she was just reporting about what's every day happening in her museum. This was really, really nice to hear. So, and the third one was me. I was just telling a story about that a heritage site which is preserved is of course not developed. We all know this very well. I guess this is what the management plans in UNESCO heritage sites are all into it. And then we had a discussion, and it was very nice to hear that there are people all over these 3 countries, and maybe all over the world, thinking about how to shape the minds of the people, how to come out of the autopilot, as Miles just said. Yeah, you said at the beginning of the conquest, you said we have to deal with the problem of mass consumption, and we have to put or to turn off the autopilot of the people. And industrial heritage, as Lucy Morisset just said, is one of the best heritage types where you can address these points. And so the session I joined in and the discussions I had in other sessions and also here on this stage, it was brilliant for me. It was very, very nice. And yeah, the whole conference was really relaxing for me.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful.
Yeah. So I've been attending quite a few sessions, arranging some of them also. And something I've been thinking about, there were quite a few sessions that were really good at pinpointing how the value of the cultural heritage in a local community and how it's a part of the identity, pride, even the good and the bad. So no sugarcoating, just the good and the bad are part of it. And it struck me that my own experience, for instance, and from my own generation also, is that there is a dissonance, actually, an active dissonance today between the people and the history of where they came from, in the sense that history is not important to them. The cultural heritage and industrial cultural heritage isn't always something that they themselves cherish. And that's because that has never, in many cases, not because there isn't an industrial cultural heritage on the site where they came from that they could potentially be proud of and cherish, but because that heritage has never been uplifted in a meaningful way. It carries no meaning for them. So, and I think that is an important part, especially in the case of if we want to preserve cultural heritage, because it's a part of what makes the present in many ways. I'm an historian, so I'm thinking in that way, that everything that came before makes up the present that we are living in now, and what we recognize as our cultural heritage is a part of that sum. And it's a problem if you can't carry that with you into the future if you can't pass on the baton, and people won't do that if they don't have a reason to cherish it. So what I'm thinking about is that something I would like to see more is how do you get like this a small town that has a strong, for instance, in my own hometown, railway history, and that which is a part of the identity, but it's not cherished. How do you make people want to pass on the baton? Because as it is now, there are so many such communities that people aren't feeling any warm feelings for the community they came from. They don't cherish this cultural heritage that they're part of because they have no reason to. Instead, they are running away from it. There's nothing cherishable to return home to. There are so many such communities, so many such towns that people can't wait to get away from. Unfortunately, I know that a lot of people talk about these communities that that feels like home. These are my roots. But there are so many communities where you don't get your roots with you. They don't mean anything. You're more like you can't wait to get away from them, to rip them apart if you can, even. So to me, that is something that I've been thinking about, and that during these sessions today, that the importance of making this industrial cultural heritage into something meaningful, so it becomes a baton that you carry with you, can pass on, and in that sense it becomes a memory that endures and not just something you want to forget.
May I respond to that? Because I totally agree with that point. And as many of you know, I'm very old. And over the last few decades, I had a career involving the recording of industries during the massive Thatcher-induced deindustrialization of the UK and Scotland. And I visited a lot of places and had to talk my way into them as they closed. And so I learned very quickly that if you went in at the very top of an organization, the management were paranoid and wouldn't let you in. So I went in through middle management and shop steward level and trade union level. And having got into, for example, the big cold rolled steelworks at Gartkosh, got in there and started to get them to help me, they said, why are you interested? And same with coal mines and so on. Why are you interested? And I said to them, because you change the world. These big industries and small industries, you change your small world or big world, but this is your history. And in some cases, not all cases, but in the end, we had everybody working for us because they hadn't really thought about themselves as being important. And the narrative, particularly in that political environment, with the sort of neoliberal politics, which Chile knows very well, taking over, they felt worthless, and they didn't feel their history was worth anything, and exactly that situation prevailed. So that's our challenge, and it's our challenge in Southeast Asia, where we're working at the moment in countries that don't really know what industrial heritage is, don't register it in their monument systems, they don't have any system of protection for it, so it's just not recognized, so that these people's working lives are of no significance culturally. So our challenge is to change that.
Yeah, thank you, Miles, and also because that's something I would have that I think a lot of people would like to feel, because there are so many people, younger people, chasing like meaning today, because it's like there is a lot of conflict in the world, there's so much insecurity, there's a lot of focus on like prestige, you have to be someone, like all of these different messages all coming together, making things really messy. And so I think that is also something that could be a part of a sense of creating a home inside of you, of who you are, where you come from, that you can carry with you. And it would be meaningful in that sense, because then you have, well, perhaps not the compass that points you the direction, but something that tells you where you came from. And I think that would be a sense of comfort for a lot of people.
Totally agree. Thank you so much. So, do we have any more contributions, thoughts? If you don't, there's a danger I might ask somebody to say something, and that somebody might be Bartosz, because I know he's prepared some of his own thoughts. Do you want to step forward into the comfy orange chair and take a microphone? You can use my laptop if you want, because I've got what you did.
Actually, I think that I was taking notes of the session chaired by Lia and Marijke, and they are all here. Give it a shot. Thank you. Well, I think that I think, sadly, I did not attend the third part of the session, which was mostly about co-creation of heritage, which is, in fact, something which we are discussing here for almost the whole morning, sitting here. And my impression was that, how to say it, obviously that maybe I start with impression from other session, which was organized by colleagues from Mulhouse, Pierre Fluke and the gang. And it was about, let's say, contribution of industry into sustainable transformation, but also about reindustrialization of, or still using heritage in a industrial way. And it was in the middle of this session, there was one paper which was dealing with forestry and railway. Oh, yes. So, I mean, obviously it was perhaps a problem of arrangement of session. It always happened with conferences. But in case of those sessions of Lia and Marijke, I think that it was quite interesting, because though papers were from very diverse places, they very nicely fit together. They created a nice, let's say, panoramic overview of different issues related to co-creation of heritage, how to involve local communities, and it could be even discussing some technicalities, like, for example, to use new technologies to involve people. There were even some ideas about kind of the, where is this, my notes, use of GIS-based platform for people to allow contribute with some ideas how the surrounding could be transformed. And even with this intangible heritage, it could be also somehow place located with GIS, because people live in some places. They have different memories, different relationship attachments to history and to industrial places. So even it is intangible, it is very localized in a sense. But for me, to be honest, the most interesting was, which was not the in fact, the main topic of the session, but that in Lusatia, you think of post-industrial landscape, yeah, which is interesting that it is something which was created as a process when the open cast mining ceased. So it is not preserving relics of the industry itself, but let's say preserving the process, whether it is possible, because it is still going, yeah, which is perhaps something which is quite innovative in a sense, because it opens a new territories in our research, in our interests. So it's more or less the same, like we should start think of, for example, how to preserve industrial heritage related to computers, to IT technology. There is a unique museum in Katowice in Poland, and they have a nice collection of Polish computers from 1970s and 1980s, but these are just objects. And the main idea behind the research was to recreate software, to make them really computers again. Yeah. So I think that there is a lot of new territories which might appear in, soon, and I think that for me it was quite an important lesson that I feel that maybe I'm still too much in my bubble related to 19th century, because industrial heritage is still ongoing, and there are other industries which emerge and maybe become industry or industrial heritage quite soon, because technology is so quickly changing. Yeah. So, but this transformative process of this landscape was quite interesting in this sense, that there was something really new to me, and thank you very much for this.
Thank you, Bartosz. And this moment, I would like to thank you for something that happened in your session. Well, because you mentioned to me the intrusion of the forest railway into your regeneration session, and I think it's because it had the word regeneration in the title, and the assumption was it would perhaps be a bit more relevant. But as it happens, my session, as Helmut said, suffered Helmut syndrome, and only half the speakers turned up. So, and it was on railways. So I contacted the guy and said, "Can you do it again, please, in our session?" And he did, but he did a different version of it. But even so, I feel it's introducing the concept of recycling into academic papers. We all do it to an extent, but it was great that it had a second life in the same conference. So that was really good. So thank you for doing that. Were you planning to add something? Yep, come and take an orange seat.
So first of all, thank you for those nice comments for our session, because we were, like, for me at least, and I think for Leah as well, the first time sharing such a big session and then 3 parts of it. So thank you so much. And also for recognizing our thought behind it, especially for the post-mining landscape in Lusatia, because it's hard to transport the innovative approach, in structures that sometimes don't want to be changed because we're talking about a World Heritage Initiative, so it's hard to work the boundaries and maybe expand them to some extent. But what my at least biggest take from the whole session as well as the whole Congress was we're dealing with industrial heritage and both the positive and negative sides of it, like how it influenced our lives. And especially for my generation, because people in my age think, why are you like talking about post-mining industries, even though you're really into the sustainability ideas? And I feel like there needs to be the communication as well and transport that we can learn from the industries, both how they advanced us, but how they changed our world for the better or for the worse, especially in a time where the industries are picking up here as well in the Arctic. And there were so many from DAG, but also from the Sami people, like how much it influences here in the Arctic and how fast it's changing. So for me, a big thing was as well to communicate. And there was a lot of sustainability sessions as well, but more in the sense we need to communicate more how we can learn from the industrial heritage to help plan in the future and how we can manage the impacts that will come and will arise. Because I'm coming from a management perspective of this. So that was my biggest takeaway, that there needs to be a lot of communication, especially with the relevance for younger people. Maybe in that sense, connect them more, like learn about what maybe happened and which you think was bad for the environment, but how can we use that knowledge and see the attachment of communities to actually the industry for future. So thank you so much. And
Miles, may I say something briefly?
Of course you may, and it's not up to me.
Thank you. It's just because she already started to answer the question for what. So basically we have been dealing with this big question of the industrial heritage of, where was the first word? What, for whom? Do you because in Germany they have it very clearly. So it's what, why, and for whom. And we are very curious about for what, from, I don't remember now, I'm so tired, sorry. But and for what at the end? Why we want to conserve the industrial heritage. And it's because we get some experience from there, you know, and this is such important to put it, and I'm curious about the future. We have a lot of earthquakes, so we cannot really plan even the cities, you know, something, the earth is alive. But yeah, we also are putting a lot of efforts in the future, but sometimes we miss the past and of course the present, which is provide you a lot of other thinkings and questions that we are so busy going to there, but we miss a lot here. So yeah, very nice, thank you.
So, do please step forward and take an orange chair if you wish. Yeah. Oh.
I'm sorry, I feel an urge to, pin up the socialistic heritage section since I'm the only one from it here. You have to be inclusive with me because you can see that, I'm coming from the eastern part of the Europe. To speak about just one thing again, there was a paper by my Serbian colleagues about the Energo project company, which was a machine works and design office in Sarajevo, which was actually competing with General Electrics on the markets of the so-called third world. And it may look like an propaganda, but I was convinced that they really in Sarajevo built a strong feeling of community around this machine works. Real one, not the, the propaganda faked one. And that brings me to the topic which probably has more connections to the socialistic heritage or late modern heritage, post-war heritage. That's the issue which appears once again, the healing of the traumas of post-industrialization. On the East, that's actually a healing, the healing is more needed. As you can see, there were industries which were actually quite modern. Am I to be here? Yeah. They were actually quite modern and, quite and healthy companies. But as you may know, and I'm not exaggerating, in the 90s, and I'm not that old, but I do remember the 90s, and in the 90s, the people in the Eastern Bloc were told that their lives before were useless, worthless, that they have been helping building an imperium of evil and everything has to be forgotten. And just going back to these, and I have to say, and I have to stress that these communities are still meeting and gathered around the physical objects, by the way. So going back to study these physical objects, which is my task, I'm an historian of architecture, not a sociology expert, but I can already experience that if I ask the people who were working for these companies which were not able to continue their work, they were really forced to close, helps them to heal this trauma, which is deindustrialization trauma in general, but in the Eastern Bloc is again a trauma of to be told as a worthless. So thank you for the possibility of being here. I'm just catching the vibe, but sometimes I feel that I need to stress something out.
Thank you. Excellent.
Okay, I just briefly want to add some points from the two sessions I was sharing.
Microphone.
Two sessions I was sharing. They are part of larger sessions, of course, so I've only a short glimpse into it. But one was heritage and sustainable future, and the other was heritage at risk. And the interesting point, so the first session was only 2 speakers, as you know, but this was also a big chance for the session, for the discussion afterwards. There was Johan Sandström, and the interesting point is that people come from totally different Disciplines, yes, sorry, disciplines. Sandström is a professor of business administration at Loyola University, and he is related to migration and community in this. And with this, his attempt, he gave us an introduction into the discussions here in Norrbotten about making green steel. So very interesting point. And the other second presentation was by Gaia Zaghi from Israel, and she was talking about a desert landscape in the Negev desert, which and she is a landscape examiner she's coming from the Institute of Technology in Beersheba, and she is trying to lecture focus on a crater, a geological site in the Negev desert, which played an important role in the constitution of the early Israeli state. And the interesting point was, as a chair, you have to comment this, and we try to find a connection between both. And it was very interesting for me that this connection is there still if you think these topics have nothing to do with each other. And for me, the most interesting point was that from totally different disciplines, we can learn a lot about the creation of industrial landscapes, and this crater in the Negev desert was an industrial landscape. They got construction material to build the first settlements in Israel after the creation of the state. And on the other hand, Johan gave us an impact into the situation, actual situation here in Nordbaden. And in the other session, one moment, I have to look. We have a paper about. I'm sorry, I have to look into my notes. It's a little bit complicated here to find it. This was a totally different session. It was about heritage at risk, and we had a paper about. Sorry, where is it? By Evelyn, a German linguist, and she's analyzing mining languages in different countries, comparison between Britain and Germany, and we also I learned such a lot from such diverse topics, and so I think it's sometimes good when a session is not too full and you have to find relations between the different topics. And if you talk with the presenters and the public and the audience, you really, in the context of industrial heritage, you find these relations, yes, on total different levels. And I think this was one of the most impressive things for me in this conference, that I learned that from totally different disciplines, we can talk about the same topic and the problems of a topic and the research about the topic to get also not only the material impact, but also the immaterial impacts of this, yes. And this, I just wanted to give this to the audience. Thank you.
Very much, very much. Thank you, Helmut. That's really great. Does anybody else have anything to comment? We do. Please come up and take an orange seat. I have some comments here I can share with you that were sent to me, but only if nobody else wishes to. Thank you.
Thank you. My impression from the sessions, I was at the Heritage at Risk that Helmut is talking about. So there was a lady from Germany, I cannot remember the name, talking about the linguistics of the coal miners in UK and Germany. What I would like to say, in my university, in Izmir Institute of Technology in Turkey, there are some governmental
funds, which is somehow recent in last 5 years. If you are doing interdisciplinary research, you are taking more funds. So those presenters were my master students working in a geologically important area, and one was talking about mercury mining and the other one is talking about traditional olive oil mills which are at risk. So I really get used to it working in interdisciplinary research with different people from geology, hydrogeology, sociology, linguistics, tourism department, and people from microbiology, because that, you know, some mines, they also have a kind of effect on the soil quality and other species around, and environmental engineers, etc. So most of the publications that I recently published have like 12 writers, 12 authors. So in that sense, I also experienced and learned that pointing out the lady from Canada, I'm sorry, I forgot the name, that everybody has a kind of realm, and those realms, they sometimes intersect to each other, and everybody should know where to stop. For instance, as an architect and a conservation specialist, I don't have a background about how to interview with people. But I know that that is needed for the conservation of that industrial heritage, and I ask for another specialist to do this in my project that I'm coordinating. So it's kind of proposing a kind of georoute in the Karaburun Peninsula for the sustainable development of that region, and there are also city planners, urban planners, etc. So this is one thing, and I just want to point out that issue with some backgrounds you cannot scientifically do that, and there are some architects who are doing this and we are criticizing them, sorry to say that. So everybody should know their backgrounds and work with other specialists who are who have a background about this. The second thing that I want to mention here, which we also I shared my thoughts, and he was thinking the same thing with Roche. Another concrete thing that needs to be solved in these congresses is the funding of coming these physical sessions, which is very good for me, not the online ones. So in that sense, we are also doing some European Union projects, Horizon Europe, ERC, etc. So I will be very happy to be a part of a cost project, for instance. This is very suitable for a cost project. I am now in one of the cost projects related with heritage and conflict, which is my research, one of my research areas. So if anyone who wants to be a coordinator of a cost project related with industrial heritage, I will be very happy to be a part of it. It should be better, because I also act as an evaluator since 2014, and I know the evaluation process very, very well. So it should be a European coordinator will be better. So if anyone will do that, it will be good. And this community and that industrial heritage in Europe and beyond also very suitable for ERC synergy. You know, there are several types of ERCs, and ERC synergy is very suitable for a collaborative work. And any candidate who wants to coordinate an ERC synergy project can contact me. I will be very happy to be a part of it. and this will sure help the funding of these gatherings. Maybe you can do this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Aha. Simon. Welcome to the Orange Lounge.
Thank you. I had the pleasure of being a écritoire, writing desk. That's the translation in Norwegian. On a session where with only 2 speakers. And this one was about, the first one was about the problematic situation for the old storehouses in Trieste. And I thought that was a very nice session because it raised a lot of questions about the reuse of big industrial heritage. These buildings are they can be used for many purposes, and as I understood, there are people just waiting to throw their hands over them and make them into expensive apartments. But on the other hand, there are other they want to do other things for them too. And Elisa Maria Vittoria Bertoloni, who had this session, she also came in and had she went through different alternatives for restoration of these buildings too. So I think it was very informative and good, and but also very, very. It feels a bit depressive. Not the session itself, but the situation for the buildings there. And the other speaker on this session was, let's see, Maria Gastner from France, and she talked about puddle iron. And there was a bit confusion there what puddle iron is. Some thought it was cast iron, but it's not cast iron. But in the end, we cleared it out, I think. And the interesting thing here is that the puddle iron is very different from producer to producer. And when you're restoring old buildings, you want to find the right iron or the right recipe. And what she had been doing was this, not to do of course, analysis of stretch and that, but she had gone the other way and looked up in all the archives and such, and that was interesting. It's a nice approach to those problems. All in all, I think this has been a very nice Congress. It's my first TICCIH meeting. I have met Miles and Marion online before, and I think it's a very, very nice way to share knowledge and experience. So I hope to be back some other day. What I work with normally is a bit on the side of what most of these people in TICCIH work with. I work with the lighthouse history myself, and I work at the museum or the Norwegian Lighthouse Museum, you might call it. So the last years we've been working very much with the documentation of lighthouses, and we have made a web page where you can go in and take virtual trips in our lighthouses. So if you look up our lighthouses or you can kystverket.no no.4. That's the address. So next time I will say something about lighthouses, Miles. I think so.
Yeah.
Especially about the cast iron lighthouses.
Yeah, and how easy is it to get to your museum?
Well, digitally it's no problem.
No, but in reality.
In reality, no problem either. You just drive to the southernmost end of Norway. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hello.
Yep.
Working. I found the questions, the proper question, which I have been dealing, but because I'm tired, I couldn't say it in a proper way. So we have been dealing with the question as industrial heritage projects: what, how, and for whom. So the SWIFT now is who, how, and for what. And I think we're running quite well in this conference, replying the new questions of the industrial heritage. Thank you to all of you.
Do we have any more comments? I'm going to share. I've had 3 absentee escritoire reports, and they're quite difficult. They're very. 2 of them are very, very detailed, and if I started to read them out to you, you would be asleep in about 3 minutes, is my guess, because there's a lot of detail. So they've done a fantastic, conscientious job. But one, Shuai Wei, has produced a table with titles like takeaways. So I'm going to attempt to share her brief report on first off, the Industrial Heritage and Sustainable Future session. And that was, the speakers were Hyuna Shin from Pusan University in Korea, Shuai Wen Huang from Taiwan, and Sam Schweitz from Michigan Technical University. And they were talking about labor struggles and community movements at the center of heritage making. And I've just skipped straight to the takeaways, which are, quote, "This session highlights a significant turn. Industrial heritage is no longer confined to preserving industrial remains, but is reframed as a contested political arena in South Korea, a platform for cultural democratization in Taiwan, and a transdisciplinary sustainability science in the USA. The shared challenge is how to connect industrial heritage with social justice, community agency, and ecological futures, ensuring that heritage practice actively contributes to a sustainable and equitable society." Isn't that wonderful? Thank you, Shuai Wei. Amazing. So, and she's gone on to say, as relevance to TICCIH, this session demonstrates that industrial heritage can be reimagined as a field of contestation, sovereignty and labor, democratization, community identity, and transformation, sustainability science. For TICCIH, this means acting on new research themes, cross-regional collaborations, charter evolution, and public-facing storytelling to ensure industrial heritage is central to the shaping of a sustainable and just future. Wow, there we go. I think that's everything in a nutshell. Fabulous. So thank you, Shuai Wei. There was an earlier one which involved herself and Yu Shen and Xing Yao from Taiwan, and Ura Antic and Liana Jevromic and Alexandra Milokovic from Serbia. And we had, I think we may have covered some of this already. It relates to the socialist era industrial sites, their cultural value, their lack of protection, the decay and demolition, and the lack of core protection. Only 0.5% of Serbia's registered cultural heritage are industrial, and none of the socialist era factories are legally protected, and so on. So we've heard some of this before already. There's research trends that involve networking for management and conservation of industrial heritage. the cultural route experience, and how industrial heritage has to evolve to build up a public-private relationship. So a strong educational role, and I was interested in this because they focused on the movable type printing industry, and that was just a reminder to me, if any of you have encountered museums of printing, they're extraordinary because you've got the actual industrial heritage of printing and hot metal and varieties, but also the communicative power of printing and the fact that it creates archives in its own right as well is truly amazing. So just the relevance to TICCIH is the industrial cultural routes suggest directions with TICCIH's partners such as ERI and ANI, and the potential for global comparative frameworks, thematic groups, and collaborative digital inventories. So, I think we've got one more. I've got several pages here. No, that's it. That's it. Thank you. What are you thinking? Oh, yes. Please, we have more. Wonderful.
Want you come up here?
I was just going to share from one session where I was as well.
Thank you.
Ooh. Now, I got to attend the session this Thursday, 8.6 Industrial Heritage and Modern Business, Building Sustainable Collaboration in the Arctic and Beyond. Exciting title. But this session, it was actually one project where the different presentations were different facets of this project. And this project was Botnia Business Heritage, yes, which was a project run between 2023 till just recently in 2025 by some researchers from Luleå University of Technology, Per-Olof Grönberg, Dag Avango, and Jenny Sjöholm. Also from the Novia University of Applied Sciences, Daniel Ainasoya and Jonas Rak. The Central University of Applied Sciences, Pernilla Howard and Linda Lindros. The Västernorrland Museum, Magdalena Åkerström, and Skellefteå Museum, Pernilla Lindström and Jessica Lundmark. Quite a few people here. But it was a Finnish-Swedish collaboration because this project took place had the aim to connect, to strengthen the connection between cultural heritage actors and companies across the Gulf of the Botnia region. What I thought was interesting with this project is that it tried to meet up with the needs that there is a need to try to facilitate this connection between businesses and cultural heritage actors in various ways. And what I reacted on was that this project has actually succeeded in creating something quite tangible. And it's quite relevant to the project in the sense that it has promoted the collaboration for the preservation of heritage in cases where the project is dealing with industrial heritage. It's not necessarily industrial, it can be any type of heritage, but it has furthermore provided educational exchanges between actors for whom the heritage carry meaning, offering and facilitating a means to engage and reconnect with their own organizational and industrial past and present. And this way, I think they managed to create and connect links between actor groups, otherwise believed to be quite contradictory, because it's not something you think about business, cultural heritage. It's not something that everybody thinks should be an absolute, absolute companions. And so, as I said, they created something quite tangible because they created a platform for this continued collaboration, even past the project, and even a guidebook.
Oh, yes.
Yes, just think going down to the municipal office with this for urban development. So that's something I thought was quite interesting because they've actually created not just an online platform, but that continues for the networking, but also actual physical, potential digital project as well that you can actually bring to the table.
That's great, and I should say that there's, I think, at least 2 copies that could be taken away on the TICCIH table upstairs if anybody wishes to acquire one, if they haven't got one already. Thank you very much. That was really good. Thank you. Oh, come, return to the orange chairs.
Hello once again. Thank you, Bartosz, for summarizing our session. I'm not going to talk again about that session. We've already heard about it. But I just wanted to maybe take the opportunity also quickly reflect on a session that I had the chance to present, also the Lusatian post-opencast mining landscape in, which was chaired by Yiping Dong. It was about shifting the narrative of OUV for industrial sites of everyday life, where she raised the question, how can the industrial site be evaluated from the perspective of everyday life? Which I thought was a very, very relevant question. We were only 2 presenters actually in this, in this session. But what I thought was brilliant is that Yiping actually reacted to this situation of us only being 2 people, and she started the session with a presentation that she called Session Decoded, I think it was. And she actually gave a presentation herself about what the motivation was and what she thinks is necessary to discuss. And I think that was absolutely brilliant because it really helped to already frame the discussions we had. And basically the main topics here were really in relation to UNESCO World Heritage and the, how do we integrate narratives of everyday life as well as memory making into a potential OUV concept. So in addition to my own presentation where I reflected on what Bartosz already mentioned quickly about how we can redefine also heritage narratives in a post-mining setting where we know that the post-mining landscape is still developing, and I particularly also addressed the question of how do we deal with energy generation if we have renewable energies that are now a form of post-mining land use. How do we integrate that into a potential OUV narrative if the region itself doesn't necessarily only understand itself as a mining region, but as a region of energy generation? Like, this is the continuity that can be provided. So that was the one side. And then there was another presentation from a colleague from Hong Kong who spoke about memory mapping in the railway between Vietnam and China. So it was quite different perspectives, really. But Yiping really managed to focus the discussion on how do we integrate this question of everyday life? What do the places really mean to people, and how can this become a catalyst, basically, for defining this OUV? And I think it was a wonderful question that she raised, and I'm sure that we can discuss this in the future. She will probably continue with that. It was unfortunately parallel, I have to say, to the public discussions. So we didn't have the largest crowd, but I think it was a wonderful initiative she had there. So I just quickly wanted to also bring it up here because I know she already left. She might have wanted to share.
Thank you so much. That was really lovely. Thank you. So, have we exhausted ourselves? Well, we probably have. Thank you so much. Marion, can I hand back to you?
Yeah, sure. So, well, thank you for that. I have taken notes. We have the live stream, and we'll come back to that. I would like to perhaps thank all the people that have been involved in preparing this Congress in Kiruna, in Luleå, in Valparaiso, in whatever place everyone has prepared their presentations. I would also like to thank the organizers for the excursions that we had during the week. that took us to different places that are so beautiful as Abisko and the landscape out there, or so impressive like the deep hole of the TICCIH mine that can compete with Chuquicamata in Chile perfectly. Also, the KB mine, of course, the city tour, and the people you managed to involve in preparing these excursions. And I would like to, and also the reindeers. We have been seeing the outdoor dinner was wonderful, beautiful landscape, very interesting to walk around there and have a look at the different sites. A special thank I would like to ask you, Jenny and Katarina, and the organizers to hand over to the musicians. That was so wonderful to get an impression of these special musics that were very emotional for us to hear and to listen. It was particularly nice yesterday. We sat just close to the table of the musicians. That was so nice to have them there with their children present, sharing, eating together. We would like to ask you to please share the names of these artists with us, because we have a lot of curiosity to listen more to them and to probably send links on Spotify and do some studies on museology. That's it. I think we should perhaps do some debriefing when we are alive again with the organizers, to have a final roundup. That would be nice, also on the personal side. And thank you all for being here. Thank you for a wonderful conference, for all the thematic contribution. We will have to talk about the Congress proceedings. We will let you know, you TICCIH members, how that will be handled. And if you are not a TICCIH member yet, you should become one in the following 5 seconds, because of course you're all very curious about what TICCIH is going to be in the next 50 years. We have our bulletin where we will inform in every number about how the process is going. We got used to that over the last year, because that is the organ of our organization where we have the possibility to communicate that to our members. You know that you always have the possibility to write in the bulletin. Also, just contact Bart. And that's through these media channels that we will let you know also about where and when the next TICCIH World Congress, and probably also the next TICCIH intermediate congresses, will take place. Thank you for a wonderful congress. Thank you the board members that stand down. Thank you to the 20, the board of the 20. Enjoy your last days in Kiruna. Have safe travels back home, and see you very soon online and in real life also. I'm missing out on English words. I start to speak in French. Thank you so much.